Hello, everybody. Nice to see you here online again. um, this is the beginning of a quest for exploring the mental ecology via sound in the project called Burn Slow, Nordic and Baltic network for exploring mental well-being in sound art and radio art. And this network is organized by Liepāja-based media art research center, exhibition center, EEST, Art, Science, Technology, Education, and in collaboration with media art education institutions like Liepāja University New Media Art Department, Estonian Academy of Arts, New Media Department, and Vilnius Academy of Music and Theatre. And also our biggest partner and the main reason why are we here and why we have this voice tonight is Pixelake Festival, Pixelake 2021 with the theme holder Burn. And tonight we have invited various artists who have different approaches how to listen to ecology, to inner ecology, outer ecology, how to sustain it. And first we will have short lectures, presentations by Maija DEMITERE, Ieva VީKSNE, and Krista DINTERE. Afterwards, our tomorrow's program will be introduced, and tomorrow we have the four short master classes led by Jakob Remin from Denmark, John Grzinich from Estonian Academy of Arts, Mantautas Krukauskas from Lithuanian Vilnius Academy of Music and Theatre, and Derek Holzer from here representing Sweden in this Nordic network. And I guess the program is pretty big yet for this afternoon. So I think we should start. And I want to invite the first speaker, Krista DINTERE, who is a sound artist based in Liepāja, working with exploring environment and sound, and today she will talk about extending time and the sense of time for sustaining our mental well-being. Please.
Yes, hello everyone and greetings to all. My name is Krista DINTERE and I'm here from Liepāja, Latvia. Today I will talk to you about the perception of time and how time can be extended with while working with sound. And the start of the notion that listening changes the perception of time for me was last year during lockdown, because last September I was attending a Sound Days Festival retreat here next to Liepāja in a countryside next to village of Grzinich. And it was a weekend in the countryside for experimenting with sounds, and it was like a small kind of a sound residency to work on our ideas and to kind of to have some collective evenings with collecting vegetables from the garden and making a big pot of soup together. But during the days, so we had some time to work on our own projects. And so this was time when my youngest son was still very young, I think some 9 months old, and he was with me all the time in my carrying bag. And so together with him I went outside with my sound recorder and put on my headphones to look for something interesting. And I didn't have like a clear plan in mind how I would do it and what would I find. And of course I was thinking, yes, I'm in the countryside and probably yeah, I will do just some nature recordings. But after a while it was quite interesting how yeah, the kind of the sounds from the city started creeping into my sound recording. Although it seemed from the visuals that I'm quite far away from the city, and it looked like very countryside-like, still the sounds from the city were coming towards me. And yeah, to speak on the act itself of putting on headphones and kind of augmenting your hearing with the means of a sound recorder, it's very exciting because by doing this you make an informed decision that now you are not only here the world around you, but you will try to listen to the environment, which is like in everyday lives we are not like that much concentrated on listening what's around us. And yeah, so by doing this, yeah, I kind of yeah, started to listen around me. And yeah, to speak about listening as well, I should as well mention some influences from the sound arts that should be noted. Okay, I will quickly share my desktop. Yeah, so one of the influential thinkers and artists to mention when talking about listening to sounds is Pauline Oliveros. She was a really great thinker, and I think she has inspired really a generation of sound artists and people listening to the environments. Yeah, she has really kind of written a lot of works, and as well like pieces, text scores for listening, and she has created methods for listening to the sounds within and around you. She calls this practice deep listening, and yeah, so there's kind of a difference between only the fact that you hear sounds and the fact that you are like deciding to listen to your environment. And as our ears lack kind of the equivalent of eyelids, we can turn off visual stimulus if we just close our eyes, but if we cannot do the same thing for our hearing, but we can access our hearing differently by kind of altering our attention and focus, and we are very well built to do so. Yeah. Other inspirations when thinking about listening to the sounds around us, I should mention Canadian composer Raymond Schaefer. He's kind of the father of soundscape, and he has coined the term soundscape, which basically is our sonic environment, the kind of all the present sounds, sound arrays around us, the noises, and everything that is sonic around us. So, and yeah, he's from his ideas, I'm very interested in the fact how, although it's yeah, he has kind of defined the field of soundscape ecology, which is in a way very radical, that it kind of wishes to conserve soundscapes, and before introducing new sounds to the soundscape, think more about what the sounds we make change in the environment. Though, yeah, I think he has created a lot of interesting pieces of text around listening to our environments. And yeah, thinking about sounds that enter our body and our environment, and to kind of be active in the listening process. Well, as well, for other influences, I would like to as well mention local experimental music kind of veteran, Andris Indāns. He's the leader of a collective Gas of Latvia. And I think, yeah, here, at least locally in Latvia, he's quite influential in the way how he uses field recordings and noise in his music. And as well, our fellow workshop leader, John Grzinich, who will introduce his methods in workshop later today, is as well a big inspiration for how to approach sounds in the environment around us. Yeah, so we will hear from him later. But yeah, so getting back to my experience last September, I had my headphones on and I was ready to listen to the environment and sounds around me. And the air traffic at that point was kind of non-existent. I had not seen or heard a plane in the sky for a longer while. And so, yeah, there I was with my headphones on and with the sound recorder and listening to the environment. And I entered an agricultural metal barn, and inside the structure, all the sounds outside were kind of amplified in a very interesting way. And all of a sudden I started hearing faint sound with a clear low tone coming towards me, and it was a plane. But at the moment of listening, I kind of felt that the time has in a way stopped. I have forgotten about it, and I'm just listening to how the sound is coming towards me. And yeah, with the sounds amplified by the structure of the barn, it somehow almost felt like a cello string that is spun across the sky above the roof of the barn. And so I was just staying there and recording and just listening to this sound of the plane flying above me for a really extended period of time. And yeah, the interesting thing is that yeah, as international air traffic was cancelled, but in this village of Grzinich, right next to it, there's the local airport of Liepāja, and they have an academy for new pilots. And this was yeah, one of the pilots just yeah, trying out how to fly, and it was a surprise for me when such a mundane sound, when taken out of the context of being mundane, can kind of be evoking and inspiring, and can stop time in a way for the while you're listening. Thinking about this, I started thinking about how sounds are time-based. They are like very fixed in time, and if the sounds are not recorded and sound events, they leave no trace behind, but the memory of what you just heard. As well, time in music can be perceived as sounds that are kind of dispersed in time, and they have kind of relations to each other, and as like John Cage has many times spoken about how silence is actually very important in music. In the terms of music, like silence is the absence of sounds, or like the silence between the sound makes the rhythm. So that's as well an interesting aspect. And yeah, while working on this piece, I kind of came to the conclusion that recorded sounds are like kind of reflections of the time events in the sound space around us. And so the recording technologies can be as an extension of our hearing and memory. And yeah, so by means of recording, one can access the sound repeatedly, can zoom in, focus on small sounds, can manipulate or even touch the sound in a way. So it becomes kind of a tool for fixing sounds. Yeah. And on screen you are seeing some visuals I created for my piece, Reflections, Cycles and Transformations. And it's a piece which came right after the experience in Grzinich with recording the plane accidentally. And all of the composition was made by just looking inside this one sound of a plane, and having it like stretched out, having it like zoomed in. And yeah, so the time was accessed as in a recording. It can be like manipulated, and you can remember the thing that has gone away already, and you can kind of connect to it. And so in this work, Reflections, Cycles and Transformations, I completed many transformative cycles of this one sound, and so creating kind of sound reflections, and so this one sound in the end becomes the whole score of sounds. Yeah, and so maybe let's quickly listen to a small excerpt, and then let's move forward. So just a moment. Wait. So thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Krista. Does anybody have any questions to Krista? Yes, you are the first speaker. You probably get the most difficult question from me, as we also have a lot of people applied for the Young Artist Contest Workshop program, and they are from very various fields. How would you describe differences in approaches of sound art and musical composition?
Okay.
How sound art differs from music nowadays?
I think nowadays it's quite hard to pull some real borders around it. I think especially in like experimental music, like I think it's the place where kind of all sounds are accepted. So yeah, it's I think I don't have a real answer to this, sorry. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Krista.
Thanks.
The next speaker is my colleague in Liepāja University, Maija DEMITERE, who is a doctoral student exploring self-sustainability and slow media art, and mainly focusing on food production issues and food consumption issues, which play a big role on all of the crises we are kind of entering slowly. And today she will talk about her sustainable sound installation, how she introduces sound in her food art and sustainable art. Please, Maija.
Hello, can you hear me normally?
Very normally.
Yes, great. Well, I am not a sound artist, so for me, working with sound is never, the aim is never to make a composition or to make interesting sounds. I approach sound more like a visualization method, and it's kind of visualizing or searching for patterns using slightly different medium than a color or picture. And I am not. I've never used sound to uh, like search for interesting composition or search for interesting noises. But what I do in my practice, I started taking pictures of my food uh, many moons ago, I think 7 years or 8 years ago. And I started doing that because I wanted to experiment with this idea of complete self-sustainability. So very kind of Unabomber in a modern city. Because I'm still approaching this with this idea that we as modern people, we don't want to live in we don't want to live in a cabin in woods, and we don't want to eat lentils and potatoes only. So how to be completely self-sustainable while living in a city, while having a job, while still enjoying life. So for me, food was the most natural direction. And I started taking pictures of my food because I was too lazy to make notes. And taking a picture with your phone was the obvious thing. How can I save this of my food, my calories? And I wasn't really thinking about aesthetics of the picture. That was never really the point of it. But at this point, I have uh, I have collected a lot of pictures, to say it kindly, and I'm still taking pictures, and I like my colleague once said that for me, some people say a prayer before eating. I take a picture. So if I don't have my phone with me, if my phone is out of energy, out of battery, my battery is dead, I will not eat. So it's a fun little thing. Like if someone offers you a snack, sorry, I can't. I don't have my phone with me. And at this point, I think I have 30 or 40,000 pictures. Some of them are not perfect selections because it's kind of hard to choose sometimes, like using the flash photo or using the non-flash photo, because I just have so many and it's a bit overwhelming. So something between 30 and 40,000 pictures. And what to do with them? Because it's been so many years, I have no idea what to do with my pictures. Because the actual data that I'm getting from my pictures is what kind of food do I eat and how much food I have to grow to reach the self-sustainability. And I reached that goal within 1 year. I could have stopped taking my pictures, but I haven't. And now my kind of huge question is what to do with all this information that I've gathered. So when playing around with these pictures, they are ugly. Like when people talk about food pictures, they usually imagine commercial food pictures. But food, if you're not kind of taking a commercial photo, food is ugly. And these pictures, they are not always nice to look at, because what we eat is, what I eat is a lot of brownish soups. And that will be the picture. If you have boiled potatoes with some salad, it doesn't look very good. So I'm getting over this complex of mine that my food is not super beautiful, because if when you eat normally every day, once in a while, or sometimes even multiple times per day, you don't really have time to make your food pretty. So I will share some of my projects. And okay, I will stop sharing now because I need to share the sound too. Can you hear? So you can see my first food radio was an actual radio that I made because I was more interested in this building the radio. And I made this radio, and I used the food data. I had, I think, 13 sinus waves that were playing the color of the food. And this is my second food radio that we have developed. And I actually decided to put the pictures as they are. And you can see the color that is played. The notes that are being played, it's we chose them quite randomly. Those are notes that are most commonly used in ambient music. And because the sinus waves in this setup just didn't sound great, so we went for actual chords. And this was a very nice exploration on how to present food. And what we have learned from this is what you can see. You can listen to food. And the interesting part about this listening to food is that you can start hearing patterns, and you can start imagining the food having an actual sound. And you can also kind of start imagining like you can hear the seasons, like, because there are different color for red, different color for orange, for brown. And so this is where we look at the picture, and I will show the second part. And these are the same pictures. This is 1 year, and all the pictures, the main color is just stretched because it just looked like how it looks like. And now we are just playing an oscillator, but you can start seeing the pattern of food. So you can start seeing the green parts, so all the cucumbers, and you can see all the red orangey parts, so those will be the tomato soups and the watermelons. So these well, quite small experiments, what I'm trying to do with my endless food pictures, that's kind of my attempt on well, trying to analyze the data that I have, in a sense that I want to understand well, how else can we present data, and ugly data and complicated data as food in a way that could be interesting for people, because for me the goal again is to make people recycle, basically. So every type of way how I can start a conversation with people, that we all have to start recycling. And so each little project for me, that's the basic motivation behind it. And when I used to grow food actively, that felt like a full-time job. At the high point of my food growing career, I collected basically, because including like stuff that I found around the forest, so foraging and apples. I got up to 60% of all of my food, so 60% self-sustainable food-wise. The problem with that is that people don't always want to eat only potatoes, apples and tomatoes. We really do enjoy the avocados and mangoes and pineapples and bananas and nuts, and we can't really grow them ourselves. So this very utopian idea of complete self-sustainability is kind of still there, but there's a huge question mark how to get there, like really get there. But that's my process, and that's my version of sound art, that I'm calling them more like visualizations, not sound art. And the sound is kind of a product that comes out of it, but it has never been my goal to make a composition. So the bleeps and bloops that we hear, for me, are more of a concept on how else we can look at food.
Thank you for the quick introduction in sustainable eating, an overview of your diet. Are there any questions to Maija from the audience? Just compliments. I wanted to ask you, Maija, is really this extensive data gathering and analysis the kind of only way to sustain ecological sustainability to your mind?
Well, I have in my research, I have come to an idea, or maybe like a small kind of intuitive research question, is that I believe we should make all children garden to raise a sustainable society, because grown-ups are a bit too critical, a bit too sarcastic towards this whole idea of well, sustainable living. But all of the artists that I've interviewed in my research, all of them have been exposed to some way of gardening to build this connection with nature, that as grown-ups we feel responsible for nature, we feel connected to the nature. And I believe that growing food for people is very interesting, and it's very straightforward way how to think about gardening, because you like basil, then grow basil. If you like tomatoes, grow tomatoes. And if that's something that we can teach to our children, even like kindergarten, to just grow strawberries, and you will, as best as you can, and eventually you will get some strawberries to eat. And that's, I think, is a beautiful idea, and that's how we can hopefully get in 20 years people who are excited about saving the environment. I'm saying saving, but I'm not naive. It's just that's expression.
Thank you. We got a question about the software you use to make the visualizations.
Well, I have a tech guy, so he can explain this part.
Hello, I'm a tech guy. Hello. What is the exact question?
What kind of software does Maija use to make her audiovisual interactive works?
Oh,
Tech guy.
yeah. Well, then I would. They're built on the P5 JavaScript library, which is a JavaScript implementation of processing, and so it's quite intuitive and nice to quickly start working with audio and visuals. And the data gathered from the pictures, because we found out if you want to get like an average color from a picture, usually what happens is the same thing what happens when you mix paint. It always becomes brown, you know. So whatever picture you throw in there, the average color is brown. So we found this nice Python script that extracts dominant colors. So that's what you saw in the food radio. So you saw those 5 colors, and they are based on the 5 most dominant colors and their percentage of it too. So yeah, that's how we made it.
Thank you, Rafir. How many pictures have you made?
Well, the whole collection is between 30 and 40,000, but a lot of them are unsorted duplicates, and it's a bit of a tedious job to kind of select them, because you can't do it automatically. I have tried many different environments that promise you to search for duplicates, but it's a very kind of manual job as I see it, because some pictures, like even if they are maybe slightly blurry or slightly overexposed, they are I would choose them from like my selection of pictures. I never take one picture. That's a bit of a sin on my end. Every time I eat a strawberry, I take 10 pictures, 15 pictures. And if I eat a pizza, I will take even more pictures, because I want to save that picture. I want to make it as nice as possible. So I have no idea how many pictures I have.
Oh, 1,500 per year.
I have a lot. How many?
About 1,500 per year.
About like selected pictures, about 1,500 per year. But I'm saying in my folders I have a lot more, yes, because they are just not selected.
And there's an ecological question if you store them locally or on some server somewhere.
They are stored locally.
Thank you. Thank you. And the next, we have to go to the next speaker, which is Ieva VީKSNE. She is a new media artist, often working with VR and also biometric data, which is very interesting as a way. Before we talked about, Krista talked about this acoustic ecology, and Maija talked about environmental ecology. And Ieva is really focusing on her sustainability of her mental space, mental ecology. Please, Ieva.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. So, hi everyone. I'm gonna share my screen now. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about dealing with depression by real-time mental activity-driven audio meditation and mental health in my art practice. So a small introduction is that I have had several photography courses, some longer programs, but the big turning point for me was graduating with a BA from New Media Art from Leopard University. And this is where I kind of learned most about media art specifically, because photography was not enough. And currently I'm studying in master's program in virtual reality and smart technology. So what I'm interested is topics connected to human cognition, body, and mental health. And well, how did this all start? In 2017, for the first time, I was exposed to Mindwave NeuroSky device. And a lot of people warned me that it's glitchy and really hard to work with. But something about getting data from my mind was really fascinating to me. To be honest, it felt like really some sort of magic. And this is an EEG device with just few sensors, but it reads 5 types of brainwaves that are connected to specific mind states. And what is important for me as a media artist is that it gives out numeric values for different brainwaves, attention, and meditation level. So the first time I played around with the device, I created a little game where you make a holographic brain or mandala appear depending on your concentration or meditation level. So basically, you could make things appear with the pure power of your mind, which was amazing for me at the first. And ever since that piece, I've been fascinated with the possibilities of mind waves. And I have drawn inspiration actually from a lot of artists, but I'd like to mention a few kind of that have been most influential to me. I'd really like to emphasize Char Davies' work Osmosis, where she uses biometric feedback in a VR experience. And that was also inspiration for my bachelor's piece that I'm going to talk about a bit later. Then there's Ellen Perlman's opera Noor, where the actress draws inspiration to perform from the visuals around her, and they also use EEG device to translate her emotions and reactions. Another fun and nice piece about invisible things is EEG Kiss by Karen Lancel and Harman Mutt, where 2 people kiss and they have EEG devices connected to them, and the kiss is being visualized in a different way than you usually see it. And if we talk about musical performances, Chagall Vandenberg and Liza Park have been really interesting to me, how they use either mind waves or body movements. And I think for a lot of people that have studied media arts, Alvin Lucier's performance, Music for Soul performer, where he uses his mind waves to create musical piece, has been really interesting and influential. So the first performance that where I used actually Mindwave and sound art is K100. So it stands for concentration 100, so achieving the actual possible maximum. And I used images of magnetic resonance of my brain for visualization. So the musical part was created by artist Reins Nalivaiko. And so how it worked is I triggered different patches of modular synth with different levels of concentration, so thus creating this melodic piece. So let's have a small listen.
I guess we don't hear your sound.
Oh, sorry.
You shared the computer sound.
Yes, in a second. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment. Sorry on that. Yes. Can you hear it now? No? Okay. That is a bit weird. Okay. Well, then sadly, no sound in this presentation. So, but why this piece was really kind of important for me is that this is the first time I dealt with the complicated relationship I have with my mind. I have had some mild depression over many years, and I had huge anger towards myself about it, for not being able to deal with it really. And this performance kind of opened up the dialogue with my brain and made me realize that we're really in the same boat, and it's a lifelong trip. So I might as well learn how to live with it and how to work with my brain and things that are happening in it. So the next piece I'd like to show is Synk In, which is literally about struggle with yourself. And it's a wordplay kind of on syncing with yourself and syncing in your thoughts. It's a VR experience where user wears the Mindwave headset and controls her flow in the underwater environment. So if you're relaxed, you can float up to this wonderful, light, airy space. But if you're concentrating, looking around, thinking a lot, you get deeper in this dark underwater environment. So I kind of wanted to encourage the user to meditate and to relax in this environment and try to float up and kind of do some mental practice while in this VR piece. So, and the last piece I'd like to talk about is a performance that was executed last year with my friends and colleagues from Liepāja. So the title is Mental Acoustics, and we did this mindfulness exercise that you move really slowly in the space, almost unbearably slow, and to the point where you are focused only on the present state of your body. So this is kind of how it looked. And the main point was to actually invite my friends and colleagues to meditate and be present in the moment while I was performing with Mindwave headset again. And I think it was really a blessing because 2020 was already a very stressful and uncertain time, and it was amazing kind of to be together in this kind of exercise and performance at the same time. So to sum up, why am I working with these things and why do I find them interesting is, first of all, I think it's very gratifying and interesting to influence the outcome of an art piece with your mind and be influenced back by the art. Second thing is that often you get really unexpected results, but over time, when you train your mind and train your body, you can also control the results. And kind of the most important thing for me is reminding of the invisible but present things. So as brain waves, the same as with mental issues. These are things that you can't really see, but they're always ever present. and they're not really visible to the naked eye. And I think it's important to kind of talk about these things. So, as in a thank you way, I'd like to say that this is a journey of getting to know yourself and accepting yourself and making art along the way. Let's say that. So, thank you. And now I will perform a small performance with a mind wave driven audio meditation piece. So I'll need probably a minute to set things up, but I'll be here in a second. Thank you.
Yeah, for those who maybe did not see, I also posted the unhearable links of the unhearable performances there on the chat. So you can check them out, how Ieva is performing with her brain power. She has actually trained her concentration to be really exact, to hit the right sounds. So this is also amazing how fast she actually adapted to the sensor.
Okay, let's try to do this. Okay. Tell me if you can hear the sound.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. Okay. So, let's start. Thank you.
Thank you, Ieva. Now everybody's probably a bit tuned out, but maybe somebody has questions for Ieva. my question to you is what are your relationship to your brain now? Do you kind of feel it as your arm, so controllable?
Um, I thought about my relationship actually with my brain because one thing I've learned actually is to be present, and that's in the performances because most of the concentration peaks you get when you're physically present in your body, like when you feel your hands or you feel strength in your arms, like specific little movements help me kind of to connect with my body, and it actually really helps me to be present. So in a way, I think I've kind of learned a bit, maybe not to control, but to listen and stop some train of thought that I maybe usually would have just let go on, but now I can be kind of more like, I'm here. So, yeah, that would be a short answer.
Yeah, then like the key not to worry is to think about your mind as just like an organ.
More or less, yeah, kind of, yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now the inspirational presentation part is concluded, and we continue with short introductions to tomorrow workshop session. Where the participants will be able to try out some techniques or attitudes or ways how to explore mental ecologies, environmental ecologies, and well-being as such. And the first to present is Jakob Remin. Oh God, I'm a bit confused in my windows currently. And Jakob is an artist from Denmark who practices critical meditation over technology and the power structures this technology creates, with focus on the meeting between late capitalism and the algorithmic potential in internet and computers everywhere. So, Jakob, what will we do tomorrow?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We're going to experiment. Can you all hear me fine? Everything is working?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before I try to answer that, I'd like to just say hello. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be invited. Thanks, Anna and Krista, Maija and Ieva for the presentations. And also, small disclaimer, I'm actually on paternity leave, which means I'm mostly these days just at home with my 9-month-old baby girl, which means that my openness to the world is way off, and my probably hormone levels are like all over the place. So I'm a bit unused to this format and this let's say the productivity crunch leading up to presenting my work as such. So so please bear with this. Yeah. But hello, I'm Jakob. I'm from Denmark. I live and work in Copenhagen. I don't work much in a traditional artist sense right now, but being on paternity leave and being exposed to the shutdown of the COVID-19 pandemic has led me to think a lot about acceleration and breaks, and also to question what is real productivity. Even so, I guess another disclaimer, we're talking about research. Research kind of implies academic praxis. I'm definitely not an academic. I'm primarily an artist, I would say, but I have a background in engineering and designing, I guess, activist also, but not a trained academic, not a trained artist. And I would say in my praxis, I'm quite concerned with the role of the artist, and actively trying to search for alternatives to this kind of hyper-professionalized gentrification engine that the artist normally represents. So I'm quite interested in complexity and finding ways to explore and work with this as an artist, not giving into the elevator pitch, not, you know, formalizing my praxis too much, which means that my work is often really confusing, and it points in many directions. Yeah. So thanks for the introduction. That was really funny to hear my praxis laid out that way. I totally subscribe. That sounded interesting, but tomorrow it could be something different, right? I would say, though, that I feel very happy being curated into this program, and I think it resonates very well with where I am at right now, and I am not saying yes to many things this year, and this is actually the first thing I'm doing in a year, and I'm only doing that because I want to. So it's not like it's not right as such. And also a few words on sound, I guess. I've always made sound. I'm a musician and a composer, non-trained again, and I feel that my work is really kind of gravitating towards sound more and more. Also, my visual arts practice. I don't know, of all the medias, to me, sound just works. There's something about it which sustains us and builds us up somehow. It's, to me, a really positive force in my life, and it's also a place of intimacy from far. Somebody said that sound is touching from afar, and I guess, like, physically it is moving our ears somehow. I guess you could say that the photons are moving something inside our eyes as well. So visuals, I guess, are also touching us from afar. But there's something about sound and this remoteness and distance that we're all experiencing right now. But I guess in the modern condition in general, that just really works. There's something about the durational quality of sound and the way that it creates spaces, social spaces, but also very personal spaces that are really excellent. I think so yeah, sound is definitely good. I'm going to present a work that I did last summer in collaboration with a group that I'm part of. I often work collaboratively in general, so I'm a part of many groups. This one is called Center for Cyber Wellness, and I guess the name is kind of self-explanatory, but we tried last summer, when the first COVID pandemic wave had kind of died out. We tried to make a piece about acceleration and brakes. So trying to somehow make a statement for that very special time last summer, when, at least from my perspective, and I know this is highly subjective, at that time, COVID-19 for me was really good. I had a lovely time not doing anything. It was summer. Denmark was relatively fortunate. We had a summer where we opened up again and we were able to see our friends, and I was just really enjoying not doing too much while waiting for my baby to be born. Trying not to get sick, but also somehow I felt that it was important to mark that special time where we got a kind of a break from professional life. So let me jump into the video, but before that I'll try to explain what's going on. It's unfortunately in Danish, so you won't probably understand too much of the talking, but it's an attempt to make a visual matrix session. So we basically brought a bunch of nice people into the woods outside Copenhagen, and we did a visual matrix session. And the visual matrix is a method based on social dreaming, which was originally developed as a research method in the 80s, in extension to the British Tavistock tradition. So the purpose of this method is to partly uncover complex associations, imaginary relations, and collective processes without reducing to rationalized verbalization. And I think that's like kind of important, that there's this focus on not rationalizing too much. So it's a process of allowing images, feelings, associations to float into this kind of collective collage of and as the matrix kind of accumulates, the mind starts to interconnect these feelings and make some kind of meaning. So it's a great way to, as a group, try to understand something which you haven't understood yet. So in this case, it was understanding the current situation of the pandemic and kind of the wonderful feeling that it gave some of us while having a break from everything. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop talking now and try to show the video. Let me try to share my screen. Let's see. All right, so I'm not sure if I'm sharing my sound, so please, if there's no sound, let me know, right? Sound? No?
Yeah. No, it's not.
No sound. Oh my God. All right, hang on. I guess I need to stop sharing or something. I don't know.
When you share again, then you click the computer sound.
Here we go. Yes, let's retry this.
59, 59, 0, 1.
Jeg synes, det er meget behageligt, at toget kommer forbi på sådan en måde, der er forudsigelig. Og det er jo en slags stor maskine.
Måske handler monitoreringen også om at være meget bevidst om, hvor man placerer sig, altså i hvilket rum, med hvilke mennesker og hvilket pace de kører. Fordi man nok alle sammen smelter sammen, også med de rum, man er i. Både indenfor og udenfor.
Det er som om, at der er et eller andet med, at der er sådan et bestemt tempo, der kan føles rigtig rart for en og gøre en rolig. Og så andre tempoer højere eller lavere, de vil føles ubehagelige og ustabiliserende for ens indre. Og det kan både være med, hvordan man arbejder. Det kan også bare være at gå ned ad gaden. Altså jeg kender folk, der ikke tør at ligge stille. Tænkte jeg også på.
Jeg synes, der er sådan en enormt stor frihed og sådan kraft i det der med at bare ligge og flyde midt i det offentlige rum. Uden sådan noget andet formål end bare sådan at ligge her og flyde, kigge op på en sky. Det er sådan den ultimative sådan anti-handling imod alle de forhold, altså magtforhold og økonomiske forhold, man ellers indgår i.
Parken er et af de steder, parken og biblioteket, det er et af de steder, hvor at der ikke bliver krævet af dig, at du sådan agerer.
All right, I'm gonna. I know we went a bit over time, or we're a bit behind, so I'm gonna cut this video now. It kind of feels bad, but I'll do that. Might leave it running. No, that doesn't work. Let's just stop the sharing here. Yeah, so when we did this summer, the experience was really magical somehow. This is not my words. We were 12 people in the matrix, and 3 of the 12 people used the words magical. Something weird happens when you position yourself in a space and you talk together without looking at each other. It's as simple as that. So tomorrow, and that's going to be an experiment, huge experiment for me. We're going to try to make a remote version of this. We were discussing it after the session last summer, whether that would be possible, whether that would work, because we were really just hearing each other's voices. We were not, if we were looking at anything, we were looking into the sky. So it might work, but I really don't know. And since it is a first, it's not going to be a smooth machine. So I'm for the participants of the workshop that are listening now, I really want you to kind of build up a certain amount of tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity, because it might get really weird. Also, I guess I'm going to put it now. I know you wrote it out, but I'm just going to say it again. You see how we're lying on the ground? I would like us to try to do the same tomorrow. So if you have a possibility of bringing wireless headphones for the workshop, please do that. Maybe think of a kind of a microphone setup where you can lie on the ground, hear everything nicely, but still speak. So if your microphone is in your headset, it's amazing. And if you have a possibility of going outside or just basically being in a place that's really nice to be in, do that. But of course, pick a place where you will not be disturbed. I guess that's it for me. I have no idea how much time I spent. I put up an alarm, like a timer, but I forgot to press play on it. So I'm gonna end. Any questions?
All right, thanks. It seems that probably we need to move to the next. I guess we are all looking forward, to some interactions without just like a screen between us. But we are already connected with John. John is outside, and John Grzinich is a sound artist, media artist, cultural producer, head of new media department at Estonian Academy of Arts. And explorer of environments with sound, with movement and sound, with objects, with sounding objects. And I guess he will continue to explain his practice more himself. Please, John, we are very happy to see you here. Oh, we don't hear you. Ah, you have muted microphone.
Oh, somehow. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, in the grand spirit of things, I was having some internet connectivities with my computer, so I'm just using my phone. So I'll keep it short now, but thanks for the introduction. And I really appreciate the invitation. It was great that we could meet finally in the Empire several years ago, and it's good to be back. So thanks, and also that this is also part of Pixel Lake, a much bigger event. And I thank Andrew for also including me this year. So yeah, well, tomorrow we're gonna actually. I was kind of inspired by Jakob's thing. It's unfortunate I won't be able to join his workshop, but in some ways, I think we actually will be sort of exploring some parallel themes. But I want to take a sort of critical look and reevaluation about the history of communications in a way. And so the talk is called, I'll give a talk called Sensing a Sight, Telematic Sound. So, and I'll be looking at things of kind of reviewing the history of telecommunications and telematic art and how these kind of things evolved. And we'll try to transition more into contemporary practices of sound and listening, and how this actually relates to the wider theme of ecology and the situation that we're in, and in terms of ecological issues, ecological crisis, and this strange thing we call the Anthropocene. And so ever since this has come up for me, maybe 5-6 years ago, I've started to try to reevaluate things in light of this idea of the Anthropocene, because in a way it does change everything, and we can, I think, especially with our senses, seeing and hearing, and other senses, to try to rethink and critically reevaluate our relationship to the world we're living in. And strangely enough, yeah, the last year it's been odd and strange and difficult. It was not the best year to try to start leading a department and an art academy, but we managed somehow. But all this time spent on this strange platform, Zoom, has reminded me a lot of past experiments I've done, projects I've been involved with concerning telematic experiences or remote experiences using our communications networks and the internet and so on. So in some ways, yeah, I'd like to do something similar in line with what Jakob was talking about. And also, after giving my talk, that we actually try to do some experiments and see how we can use Zoom to continue, I think, an interesting tradition of sound and telematics. So it looks like I have a nice participant list, and we'll see how it goes. I just have to make sure that I work out my technical issues. But what I'm going to be doing is try to, well, use the site of where I live, this sort of farm in rural southeast Estonia, because for me it's not only a home, but it's also a really special environment in what it offers me in terms of natural soundscapes, and also the possibility for me to experiment and do site-specific interventions. So I hope to be able to share that with everyone tomorrow, but also to get information back from whoever we're involved with, and to try to create some sort of shared experience. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I think that's enough for now.
Thank you, John. Krista,
Sure.
Krista is the coordinator of workshop program. Krista, can you remind us when do the first workshops start, so nobody's late?
Yes, so the morning workshop session, which includes 2 workshops running in parallel, which is Jacob's Remin's workshop and John Grzinich workshop. They will start at 11 a.m. Helsinki time. So yeah, be there. And yeah, but we will move forward to the afternoon session, workshop leaders now. And the afternoon workshop session, we will have 2 workshops led by Mantautas Krukauskas from Lithuania and Derek Holzer from Sweden at the moment. And this will start at 3 p.m. Tomorrow, so Helsinki time.
Thank you, Krista. Hope everybody has their time set and will be present there tomorrow. And the next speaker is Mantautas Krukauskas, who is a composer, electronic music composer, associated professor at the Department of Composition and Lithuanian Academy of Music and Theatre in Vilnius, and co-founder and head of Music Innovation Studies Center, and very active professional, and always helping everybody out to set up new challenges, new technical challenges in sound making. Also, big thanks to Mantautas for the help of consulting us about the network music event to tomorrow evening. Mantautas, are you here?
I lost my mouse. Yes, I'm here. So, hey, nice to see you all. So, I'm Mantautas, as Anna kindly introduced me already. You can call me Mantas if it's more simple for you. I started my education many years ago as a pianist, and then somehow drifted into composition and electronic composition as well. And as there have been some talks before, what are the differences or similarities between composition and sound art? So, I mean, I guess in the end, in the result, it's pretty similar. I think it's just like, like in performing arts and as well as in fine arts, it's just like how we educate people to reach the same goals. But in the end, it kind of meets somewhere along the way. Of course, the approaches are different, and maybe that's the most interesting thing, because when you have different approaches, you can kind of share them and get some kind of inspiration from that. So of course there are some things composers are usually obsessed with, like a structure, a form, or the like a sonic result itself, how rich it is. Maybe sometimes forgetting the sense or concept, and maybe people who come to sound art from fine arts, they are more like into concept rather than what the final result is. But I mean, it's all relative. We can always have a discussion about that. So my workshop tomorrow is connected to the sense of space in a way, because I'm working with this for a bit already, and also space not only as a concept, but also space as some kind of acoustical feature you can have within the headphones or within your loudspeakers, how our brain understands space and how we can simulate it. So it will be also quite practical, especially if you want, let's say, to learn how to use binaural sound, like how to use different ways of putting things around listener's head, even if you don't have a lot of loudspeakers around you, but you have maybe just headphones or even just loudspeakers. I will show you some free tools to do that, and we will also train together maybe to create little something which would be conceptually connected to space, as well as let's say technically connected in simulating space. Network, by the way, is also some kind of a space when you think about that. It's because it involves this matter of distance, and as we also are connected to the concept of radio art within this context of all this series of workshops and events, I think it is also a very interesting thing which connects maybe to another sense of space, sense of free choice in a way. Free choice to have some kind of limitation, or maybe imposed choice to have some kind of limitation, like sits at home in quarantine. What do I mean? That if you turn on the radio, you usually just hear some curated program, right? But you can switch to another program maybe where there's something else curated. On the other hand, nowadays we have all the Spotifys and YouTubes where you can curate the program for yourself. But because there is so much content, maybe now it's somehow returning to that curation, because people have noticed that when everything went to be accessible on internet, the use of sonic arts actually decreased rather than increased, probably because everything is a bit overwhelming. So we'll talk and touch about all these kind of aspects of space within us and around us. Of course, naturally, space and time, probably because when things move or change in space, it happens over the time, and it's sometimes hard to separate them. Just maybe to show you a bit what I'm doing myself, also by using the same tools in most of the cases. I will present you tomorrow. I will, because I won't be showing much of my stuff tomorrow anyways. Let me just maybe share my screen quickly. It's okay, you see some notes, but maybe it's not really so important. Well, it is if you want to play. It's a piece I did for a American violinist, which had to be performed live in Stanford University last year. However, because we had this situation with COVID pandemic, we did this over internet and actually performed it in a network concert. It can also be performed live with many loudspeakers, but in the end there is a binaural rendering of it, and it kind of explores the things I mentioned about, well, first of all, violinist recorded some samples with her phone, just walking around the place she was quarantined in, and I create like several soundscapes from this, as well. That inspired me for the, let's say, structure of the piece as well. But at the same time, the piece, as you can see, is some kind of a game. That there are some notes, but there is also some kind of choice which the performer has to do, like a game, basically. Okay, you can do this or you can do that, and you have to follow the instructions. And the instructions are not like precise notes, but you kind of decide how you want to play the material provided. So maybe I will just play an excerpt from this, and you can see what I'm talking about. If you have headphones, you can listen with headphones, but it's not necessary. So somewhere around here.
We can't hear you talking.
Yes. Sorry. I said you could hear the ocean at the end. The violinist recorded herself in near the ocean. She was living at the time of that particular quarantine moment. I don't know. I mean, if you would have any questions. Oh, by the way, I'm also performing live myself. I will just paste in the chat one link if you want to listen to some ambient and noise-free improv. You can look this concert up tonight if you can't sleep. Yeah, I was performing with this kind of mask in Composers Union house before last Christmas with my colleague and friend. So we played both half of the concert, where I was also using the very, let's say, extreme spatial stuff, which was somehow well, binaurally mostly, but also with a hard padding transferred over the internet via YouTube broadcast. Maybe you have any questions? Well, if not, then oh yes,
I did have a question. Yeah, about the composition. You had some electronics as well.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell a bit more on
it. It was like a live electronics. I was sharing the right screen, right? I mean, you saw the score a bit, right? Okay, because you know it's already deep into the week. Sometimes you might make some mistakes. So anyway, the idea was that was the score for a musician, and she had to listen what is happening and try to, let's say, consciously or unconsciously make choices how to perform that score. But the electronics itself was like, first of all, one part of it was, of course, the, let's say, different scenes which were changing with those parts. Whenever a musician finishes that particular moment, I'm switching, crossfading to another scene, which has a bit different soundscape, let's say. or different parts of soundscape, very heavily processed spectrally, of course, but also different effects. I had some spectral transformation live electronics effects, which were in a way mirroring, as the name of piece suggests, or bouncing back what performer was playing. So one part was the pre-recorded soundscape, another part was live electronic effects, mostly connected to, let's say, spectral transformation, live spectral transformation of the violin being performed. So I mean, all these kind of different effects you heard, they were coming live from how what musician was playing, rather than being something synchronized. Of course, there was this drone playing in the background, which was changing according to the, let's say, switch of the scenes, so to say. And the idea was connected to how, you know, how we interact with the world and what inner changes we make inside ourselves, how that affects how we understand the world, and maybe also how it changes the world in a real sense. Physical or quantum sense, if you may. I mean, there are different interesting philosophical stuff about that. And also, there are some questions about the software we would use. So mainly DAW I'm using is Reaper, because it has some very nice, let's say, experimental properties which can be used experimentally. Also some free software you can just download or get freely on the internet. So while I will be talking and providing you the links, you will be able to download it right away and put it in your laptop or machine you are working with while listening to the workshop. Also, yeah, there is another question in chat I see. How I create electronics, it depends very much, of course, on the piece or on the situation, but usually I always like to use something which is recorded live by me, or not necessarily by me, but to have some material like something to sculpt the sound from. Another thing is that because I'm working with this, I don't know, maybe since I was a teenager, like 30 years or something, eventually you pass the threshold when you understand that with current tools you can make anything into anything, basically with all the tools which are available to us. But then you start asking yourself some questions, and I think the most important question is why. You know, why should I take the song of a bird and transform it into an aria of a tenor, for example, or vice versa, right? So what's the idea of my piece, and what this piece which I'm producing will bring new to the listener? Maybe there is another piece similar to that one which sounds better and is more interesting. So if I'm producing something, why I'm putting it out? What is my own belief in that work I'm doing? So I think I always start more from this kind of conception or let's say the idea behind it, and then trying to make sure that I choose accordingly the tools and even the style sometimes to implement that idea as good or effective, let's say, as I understand, of course. I mean, maybe for somebody else it would be complete nonsense, and that's fine, but at least that I myself believe that it's the right idea and the right way to express it, so to say. And generally, lately I like things like physical modeling, synthesis, spectral transformation, and also basically working with space in many different senses. Usually it ends up being something like 17 or 20 or 30 speakers placed around the audience, but it can be something else as well.
Thank you, Mantas.
Thanks
for your questions also to participants. And the second workshop on the afternoon session will be led by Derek Holzer, who's an artist, researcher, lecturer, and experimental and historically informed electronic instrument creator, who is currently based in Stockholm. And he's researcher in sound and music computing department in the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden, focusing on historically informed sound synthesis design. Please, Derek, nice to see you here.
Hey, thanks. It's been like maybe a decade and a half since I've been in Liepaja, but looking around right now, I can see nothing's changed. The wallpaper is still the same, at least. So. Great. Yeah, so there's lots of like giant words in my biography there that I also stumble over trying to say most of the time. So as usual, I made a slideshow that has too many damn slides in it. I'm going to start the clock now so that I don't overstay my welcome. And I wanted to present some of the ideas that I'm going to go through in the workshop tomorrow. If you're taking the workshop from me tomorrow, you'll probably be looking at some of the same slides, but we'll spend a lot more time, especially with the instruments and with some of the concepts that I'll be talking about. The overview of the workshop tomorrow is basically that we're going to look at a series of instruments from the history of electronic music in Sweden from the 1960s and 70s. They were instruments that were either designed in Sweden or in the case of one of them were designed by a Finnish gentleman named Erkki Kuronimi in Helsinki. I'm going to share my screen now, and you can tell me if everything looks good there. Get all the other windows out of the way. Great. So there's me and Erkki. We're playing a duet together over almost 50 years worth of time, which is a little bit longer than I've been alive. So there's lots of academic words to unpack, all these big, giant words. So we'll break it down really simple. Who the fuck am I? My name's Derek Holzer. I'm from the States. I've lived in a lot of countries, and I've been working in the area of sound art, and in particular in making digital and analog sound instruments since about 1999. I'm an academic now, but that's a very, very recent thing. I've been a self-employed freelance artist for all the rest of the time that I've been doing this, up to this last year or so. And so I've evolved a lot of my own kind of techniques around it. The other thing that I like to tell people when I teach workshops is that I failed every math class that I ever took in my life. So the fact that I run around the world teaching people how to, program computers and build electronics is really strange to me. And also I never learned successfully to play any sort of traditional musical instrument. I had a bass, I had a keyboard, I had a guitar when I was growing up as a teenager, but I never had the discipline to sit down and learn all the little finger exercises that make playing those things possible. So I've always approached sound from an area of sound rather than music. Mantautas, when you show me a score, you could easily be showing me something written in Chinese, and I would have the same level of comprehension there. What the fuck do? I build stuff. I've been building stuff for a really long time. I've built instruments, both analog instruments like the one you're looking at there, and digital instruments that I program in a language called Pure Data. Some of these instruments are very influenced by historical instruments. This is an instrument that combines two different sorts of historical techniques and ideas. One, of course, being the hurdy-gurdy or the vielaru. Do you have this instrument in Latvia, and what is it called?
I don't think we
turn
have
this handle,
yeah.
and you don't have this one. Okay,
No.
It's a very common instrument in a lot of countries in Europe, so I thought maybe you would have this in Latvia as well. So this is a combination of this old hurdy-gurdy, or in French, viellero, together with optical synthesis technology that was developed a lot in the 1930s after people figured out how to optically print soundtracks onto motion picture film. I also work a lot with older technologies of visuals. So, for example, this is a still from videos that I make by sending audio signals directly into cathode ray tube monitors, like old televisions or old game consoles. In this case, this is a Vectrex game console from the 1980s, or two oscilloscopes. And finally, I teach a lot of workshops on how to do these things. Usually the workshops involve a part where we build instruments, and then we get together and perform with those instruments. Now, those two things in our kind of current pandemic era are kind of out of the question. Putting lots of people together in a room to breathe on each other and make instruments together, and putting even more people together in a room to breathe on each other, listening to people performing on those instruments. So no breathing. Everybody has to stop breathing, and then we can get together. But as long as we have to breathe, we have to do things a little bit more distantly. So that's been the challenge of this workshop, has been how do we engage with this process of instrument construction in a way that I don't have to lean over somebody's shoulder and breathe on them and show them how to use a soldering iron or something like that. We could have done it digitally. We could have done something where we programmed things in the computer and peer data. But because of some of the research that I'm doing in Sweden right now, I wanted to try a very different sort of method. And we'll get to that method. So this is what I'm doing right now. I have access to this kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark, giant hall full of things packed on shelves, full of music instruments. If you've ever wanted to see a room packed with harpsichords and only harpsichords, then this archive is a really interesting place. The sad part is that none of these instruments are played ever. They're really there as kind of museum archive pieces in this climate-controlled room. There's 100 pianos, 100 harpsichords, 100 violins, 100 gongs from Asia. And then there's a room that has all these old electronic instruments in it. And so I've been going through different samples of things in this room and trying to isolate the ones that I find the most interesting, and then trying to figure out how we can reenact those instruments. So first you have to figure out what they did and why they were made, and then you have to figure out how do you make a new version of this. You could clone it, you could make the exact same thing over again, or you could take some of the ideas that are part of those instruments and make new instruments based on those ideas. So this is getting towards what we're going to do tomorrow. I call this process of what I'm doing media archaeology, which is one of those big, long words that you need to unpack. So what the fuck is media archaeology? Media archaeology is a process of looking at old artifacts, digging them up, let's say, and examining them to see what they have to say about our media landscape and our lives right now. This one in the picture is a really good example. This is a light beam piano from 1926. And pretty much everything in that picture represents the height of technology for 1926. You had these big kind of horn speakers that you would find in a phonograph, for example. In the middle of this piano body, you see these glowing tubes, which were like the latest hottest thing in electronics, is these kind of valve tubes that allowed you to generate and change signals. You have these kind of spinning fiery discs with laser beams shooting through them. And that's, of course, kind of an artistic interpretation of how sound is made optically, with spinning discs that have patterns on them and shining a light beam through them onto a light sensor. And if you look really carefully in the lower left-hand corner of this photograph, this image, this magazine cover, you'll see the thing that I like the best, which is that the artist has taken really detailed pains to show you that there's a power cord there, and that it plugs into the wall, and that it's wired. Now, everything in this picture is utopian for 1926, and it's completely dystopian for 2021. No one would want an instrument like this. It's huge, it's heavy, it's hot. You have to plug it in with a wire. It only has a fixed keyboard. It has a very limited sound palette. It uses a lot of energy, so it's very ecologically unfriendly. It's the opposite of making music on a mobile phone, which seems to be one of the utopias of now. There's no wires. It's not very heavy. It certainly doesn't get very hot. You can plug in your earphones so you don't bother the neighbors. It's a very different sort of technology. So looking at this old technology tells us a lot of things about what we want in new technology as well. And the other process that I'm engaged in is something called design fiction. This picture here is from the pilot episode of Star Trek. And this was one of the first kind of ideas that they had to make these communicators that everybody on the Starship Enterprise walks around with, talking to each other wirelessly. Wow, what a utopia. Nah, it'll never happen, right? So this object of the future, which is supposed to be like 5 centuries into the future or something like that, if you look at it closely, it's just resin with some electronic waste garbage that they picked up off the floor of a workshop somewhere in the 1960s. There's little there's little transistors, there's some resistors, there's some little miniature valve tubes, those hot things from the 1930s that are still hanging around in the 1960s. And they kind of assembled this thing into a very non-functioning prototype of what something in the future might do. And this non-functioning prototype is really key here. This thing doesn't have to work. It simply shows you what the possibilities are. Another design fiction is this. This is the Rough Planet Guide to Notre Dame in the year 2045. It was created by the Reinvent Decarbonization Project last year. And this travel guide was designed to show you what a city of the European future would look like after some mild ecological cataclysms force everybody to adopt a decarbonized lifestyle. So no fossil fuels, no disposable plastics, no meat production, things like that. And rather than just kind of writing out this is what the future looks like, they do it in a very interesting way. In this kind of, they borrow this familiar design format of the travel guide, and they have an eating out section where you can go out and eat like the best bugs and lab-grown meat in all of the Netherlands, right? And you have some recommendations of some spots you can go to. So it borrows a form that are very, very familiar to us, and it presents a reality that is unfamiliar to us in a way that we might be able to try to speculate about what that life might be like. So this is getting very close to what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to talk about what the affordances of electronic sound instruments are. The affordances are the possibilities that this object offers us. What can we do with it? Some of those possibilities were invented, or let's say imagined by the inventor, and some of them are imagined by you, the user. And we'll talk about the ethics of sound instruments. And by ethics, I don't mean morality, whether it's good or bad or evil or whatever. It's more the ethics describe what the relationship of that particular object is to the world around it, to the society which produced it and the society that uses it. We'll get deeper into that tomorrow. The instruments that we'll look at, the first one is this one. It's called the Dataton. It was designed in the 1970s by Björn Sandlund, and his kind of utopian idea was that this strange Lego brick sound producing instrument would be used in every Swedish music school. Now, one of the key points about this is that there's no keyboard. So the whole idea was that it was supposed to be a way of getting at sound by connecting things together and touching it directly without this kind of symbolic interface of notes and things. I did a workshop with some students from the Music Conservatory here last fall. This is a small slice of what they produced using this instrument. Do you hear? So sound sample number 1, instrument number 1. Oops. Instrument number 2. We saw a picture of these instruments a little bit earlier. These are called Judar, or Jud for the singular. They were instruments that were built by these two tall people in the back of the short people, Leo Nilsson on the right and Ralph Lundsten on the left. Ralph Lundsten is probably one of Sweden's best known electronic composers from the 60s through to the 90s, 2000s. He retired in 2014, I believe. These were portable sound instruments that were meant to be played by children, as you see in the photograph, during a series of concerts that they did in different schools around the country of Sweden. And we'll listen to a little chunk of them. They're quite noisy. So imagine there in this photograph there are 10 of these judar present. So imagine this kind of sound multiplied by 10. So the technical name for that is like a fart box or a squawk box. And the last instrument is probably the most technologically sophisticated. This is actually the datatone is also very sophisticated. This is an instrument that was designed by Erkki Kuronimi in Finland. It is called the Andromatic. Kuronimi made this for Ralph Lundsten to use, and it's basically a very early sequencer before you had the drum machines that came up a bit later. I mean, there were drum machines already, I think, from the 1930s. But this is kind of a programmable sequencer. It's kind of a hybrid analog digital sort of a module. And it produced different sorts of patterns. Ralph Lundsten had it, on the front of his mixing desk for about 40 years. So he used it in lots of pieces. And this is a very small section of one called Through a Landscape of Mirrors from 1970. So one thing about media archaeology is that sometimes you don't have access to the objects anymore. Sometimes you're dealing with objects which have simply ceased to exist. So we're going to kind of replicate that by me talking about these objects and trying to describe what their affordances and ethics are. And then we'll take some time as a workshop group to imagine some instruments of our own. And we'll even include some user testing of some kind into this iterative design process tomorrow, so that maybe pairs of people will design instruments and test them with other pairs of people. That's about as much as I can say about it right now, because honestly, I make this shit up as I go along. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Derek. It was so interesting. I'm a bit like, it was much overwhelmed, with the possibilities. Does anybody have any questions? Mantautas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just it's fascinating when you think about it, I was just always thinking about electronic music instruments, especially those ones. It's conceptually a very beautiful thing, but on the other hand, only those survive usually which have the traditional interface, so to say, because it has players who know how to approach it, or at least the learning curve is not so steep. And of course, the musical instrument, from practical perspective, let's say, is first of all sound, and some ways to change the features of the sound, certain features which are chosen. So it's like a sound spectrum, and also like a ways of modify the sound spectrum. But how do you think in our century, will any kind of new interfaces come up which will become popular, or that some of these new instruments might be not only something very personal or like a nice objects to see, but like nobody will learn it in conservatoire, for 20 years how to play it to a very advanced level. What do you think about this kind of angle?
I'll answer that in two ways. One is that yes, it's true. The instruments that are, let's say, easier to learn and to play and to master and provide you with something that looks like a more traditional musical interface do tend to survive longer. The instruments that I'm looking at are specifically ones that didn't actually survive. The datatone was supposed to be a commercial project, but it was never actually realized beyond, maybe there's like 12 of each module that exists somewhere. These Yudar were made for a very specific purpose for these workshops, and this Andromatic is a one-of-a-kind unique instrument that, in some ways, the ideas of it, this kind of hybrid digital analog instrument, predate a lot of things that happened later. So these instruments never reached any sort of level of commercial success or widespread use. However, a couple of instruments from the 1960s with very non-traditional interfaces did survive to gain widespread use, and those would be the Surge and the Buchla modular synthesizers, which are also very specifically designed not to use a traditional musical keyboard as the interface, and rather to function a lot more like analog computers that were patch programmable. To answer the second part of what the future is going to be like, well, that's the... they still haven't taught me how to be clairvoyant in the university here. So what I can say is this, the kinds of speculative instruments that were made in this last workshop, or that were imagined the last time that I did this workshop, were absolutely fantastic. Some of them were just on the edge of being realizable, little kind of Rubik's Cubes, because the participants really liked this kind of blocky Lego sort of thing. So there was a Rubik's Cube you could kind of turn around, and there was little touch screens on each face of the blocks in the Rubik's Cube you could do things with and stuff, and you could kind of imagine that being possible. And then on the other, more extreme end, one participant imagined something he called the velvet pancake, which was, I realized later, basically, if you've made kombucha, you have this kind of scoob that comes in the, this kind of floating squishy disc. And if you want to help your friends make kombucha, then you tear off a piece of that and you give it to them, and then they grow their own and they make kombucha with it. So he imagined that there was a way you could make a pancake synthesizer that you controlled with your mind and was networked to field recordings all around the world. And if you wanted to give your friend one of these, you would tear off a little piece of your velvet pancake and give it to your friend, and they would grow their own new velvet pancake, and then they would be networked together. And so obviously some really far future stuff, but we all had to sign non-disclosure agreements because he's going to market it next year, and I've already broken my promise. There's a lawsuit in the making right now.
Thanks.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes. I think we could keep on talking about this for hours, I guess, but maybe sometime we
I
meet
imagine
in
so.
real life with some beers. I just remembered,
like people in rooms?
Yes, wow. Probably you are aware of this, but I think in the 18th century there was this first electrified music instrument, which was called Denis d'Or, like Golden Dionysus. And basically it was designed by Czech instrument producer. The funny thing is, of course, it had electricity running on its strings, and it kind of slightly changed how it was clavichord basically with electrified strings. But the funny thing is that it had a button. When you press the button, then electroshock hits the player. So I mean, I haven't seen this recreated yet.
There was a project called Pain Station, which was a kind of a video game console that, as you continued to play it longer and longer, it started to electrify your hands as you were playing it. So part of the, to complete the game, you had to really endure ever increasing levels of pain.
So, or there was this Mexican drinking game where you have to drink beer and then you get hit by electroshock and then.
Oh yeah, toques. Yeah, I've felt those. A friend of mine took me out in Mexico City, and he's obsessed with these toques. We almost bought a toque box in one of the flea markets, but then of course we saw the guy kind of cruising around with it, and we had to try it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, but anyway.
Great. No, cool. Yeah, you're right. We could keep doing this forever. So nice to get a little discussion going. If there are any other questions I can maybe take, I don't know. I'm sure the organizers are thinking that they would like some electroshock to get the presenters to finish on time, but.
Remote controlled. Thank you, guys. And we are continuing with more fiction. We will hopefully now hear why we are here, more about the concept of Pixelec Festival by the creative co-director Laura Gustafsson, and she is a Finnish author, who also works in other fields like theater, visual arts, and TV. Her latest novel, Rehab, raises the questions on how we are to deal with waste and how do we come in terms with our own materiality. And Gustafsson also collaborates with visual artist Erika Hapoja and has produced many of my favorite artworks together, like the project on Utopian Museum of Non-Humanity and other. Laura, are you here?
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Anna, for the introduction. Yes, so I guess I don't have to introduce myself anymore because you did that. But just to say that I'm, as you mentioned, I'm Pixelake Helsinki 2021 co-director, the other one of them, and in Pixelake scene, I'm a total newbie. I've been here 18 months, and I'm just learning all this stuff. It feels, because where I come from, the scene is quite different. So I was actually reminded by this quote from Hellraiser, where the guy says that I've got such sights to show you, and that's how this Pixelake journey has been for me. Of course, like in not like hellish way, but in a really nice way. I've enjoyed a lot. So I would like to introduce the rest of the Pixelake team. The other co-director is Andrew Griff Patterson, and he's been around Pixelake for quite a while. And him and our producer Steve Maher are the two people who I consider the kind of immediate team, and it's been a real pleasure getting to know them and also a little bit about their individual practices too, because they are also artists, which is something that while we try to organize this festival, is individual practices are something that is easily forgotten. And our team also includes Sasha Nemek, who is our communication manager based in Slovenia, and Mathilde Palenius is our production assistant, and she's especially supporting the participatory events and workshops. And she works with us here in Helsinki also. And then we have Evi Aseva, who is our graphics assistant, and she's helping with social media, and she is really taking Pixelake to the era of TikTok, as she promised us, and we were like, oh my God, is that a thing? We know TikTok is a thing, but we don't know how to use it. And then there's also Antonella Zecca, who will hopefully join our team later. And I hope you've seen our wonderful graphics. They are by Wojtek Major. And why we have this kind of collaboration with sound art is because this year Pixelake is kind of returning to its roots, and we are doing radio. And I must say that after a year of really, really intense screen staring, audio feels like a bliss. So during the winter, we had an open call for audio works. And then with Andrew, we curated a program of 30 to 40 pieces. And this program includes sound art, field recordings, even some music, spoken word, podcasts, smog smelling, meditation, and much more. We got some 100 submissions, and even though some selection had to take place, I must say that I really appreciated the opportunity to listen to these proposals, because somehow in this year-long deprivation of many art forms, it gave, like, it was an experience to, like, really rejoice the new art that you don't find so easily from home. And also, even if the most of the artwork, sound art, were probably done in solitude in studio or in somebody's bedroom or alone somewhere, recording some soil sounds or something, and I was listening to them at home or at when I was running or walking with headphones, and of course I had to be also alone when listening, so I could really concentrate. But even though this solitude, it kind of made me feel that I was being a part of something common, and that was really something I respected and appreciated much. So this year we'll be in Pixelike, we'll be working with Open Radio to make our audio program possible, and Sofia Lerner is our radio team's manager. And among all the names I mentioned, I have to remind that there are a lot more people also involved in making this festival, even though their names haven't been listed here. And we're really happy to collaborate with you, and it's really nice to be part of this event, and it was wonderful to hear your short lectures, and interesting to hear about the workshops too. And I'm really looking forward for the pieces that you'll provide for our program. And it just so happens that your slot will be on the last Sunday, and I am sure that at that point of the festival we all need some mental well-being. So that will be appreciated a lot. Yeah. But do you think that we still have some time for conversation, or would you all like to prepare for the thing that's happening after 7? Or
I think we have still some 30 minutes. So
okay, yeah. But yeah, I was thinking what you said, Krista, about deep listening. It felt really like we made with Terike this project recently, which was about how to live in the world as a human being, and we made some interviews, quite many actually, and one important skill that many of the interviewees mentioned was how to listen, and listening, like really listening to each other, and I think that skill is very much underrated, and that's something that should be practiced a lot more. And I think that listening has to do with slowing down also, like we are here, burn slow. But actually, I think slowing down is the hardest thing one can imagine in this culture and in this world that we live in, as Jacob talked about acceleration and that's everything is, the pace is so intense, and always when I, for instance, when I have lots of stuff to do, meditation is something that I always compromise first, and it doesn't make really sense, and it's not, I realize that it's not wise. But how do you practice slowing down and really being into that state of listening? It would be really interesting to hear.
Well, yeah, for me, I actually, I told it as well that I started to think about like listening as a more conscious thing only like after my studies in sound art, because I think it is a very much underestimated skill. Like for instance, we have like, we train our visual skills a lot in school as well, but in a conventional school, if you're like not attending a music school or something, you're not actually, I don't think that it's like anybody speaks about how listening is important to kind of connect to other people, and as well that listening is a key element as well, like for how we perceive space as well. That's that was a really new and interesting thing for me, and as well this this thing that for instance, if you walk in a church and you can sort of feel that you are in this really big space, and the feeling actually comes more not from the visuals, but from the acoustics of the space. And so we have these a lot of cues that we get from listening. About slowing down, I'm not sure that I'm very good at it, or I don't practice meditation, but I'm a kind of a naturally slow person. But well, I think it's hard. One thing that is very hard to kind of keep your inner self quiet, because like even if you're quiet on the outside, sometimes it's like a thunderstorm inside. So it is very much what Ieva was talking about, with how to deal with your emotions, and it's not easy, but when you kind of when you have this that you make this kind of conscious like idea of your listening abilities, and your, for instance, as Ieva did the how to control things with your mind, that you can actually concentrate, and it is in like, it's like a skill you can train, then I think that could help, maybe.
What about the others? Do we still have we have Maija there, and do we have Ieva? But if you don't have anything to add there, I was about this also this connection that you mentioned and Ieva mentioned. I really feel that listening might help to form the connection and to form the like if you can form a connection with yourself, then maybe it's a lot easier to form a connection with your surroundings, and that makes you more like aware of where you are, and maybe even can make you care more about your surroundings, about your environment, and about the nature, which we of course are part of. And from what Maija spoke, I gathered the idea that like really kind of concentrating on something and being interested in something might help you to form also this kind of connection with your surroundings. And I really I really appreciated the idea of being so interested in what you like, what you consume, and then studying it. And how do you, Maija, do you think that that has how does that change your relationship towards food, for instance?
Well, for me, it's food is you can say that you are what you eat, and I think it's quite literally is true, because food is the one thing that we can control the most. We can't always control the quality of the air, or the quality of your environment, or even the quality of relationships that you have around you. But food is one that is completely your control. And even if you don't have enough money to buy the most expensive food, it is not necessary, because the local foods are usually the cheapest. So when you think about kind of this, how food puts us in different categories, like the rich people, the people who have more time, people who don't have time. And I believe that being conscious about food and your just process of preparing food, buying food, and conserving food can really make us all, not really even, but it really allows us to be our best selves.
Yeah.
We are actually having quite a discussion in text in the chat. Oh. And I wanted to ask, maybe people who have something to say, you can just join the discussion.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, it would be nice. For instance, I see that Mantautas have as well some ideas on listening, and yeah.
One thing I would love to hear also is about Krista. You talked about sonic ecology, and it reminded me about how, you know, we might not even notice when a soundscape is like when we lose some soundscape, and it reminded me about Silent Spring, the book by Rachel Carson, and the really iconic name of that book, and how devastating the idea of a silent spring actually is, and that's like also that's very like emotionally effective way to talk about that issue, but also it's a political issue. So I was thinking, in your practice, are you like, do you want to be politically involved, or do you want to raise awareness or make an effect to people? I remember you, Maija, you mentioned something about that, about your wish to get people recycling. But how do you artists see this thing? Do you want to make a difference, make a change?
You know, for me, working with sound is like in a lot of ways it's an abstract medium, but at the same time it feels very good if to join projects that are meaningful. For instance, yeah, we had and it's all still online, this exhibition about about how to extend lives with kind of filling your life with a lot of art. It was an like a utopian idea. If you kind of fill your life with many things, with new things, then you kind of feel the time passing by slower in a way. So yeah, and Anna has just published a link as well to this exhibition. It's an online exhibition, but yeah. So for me it feels good, of course, to make works in a frame that is kind of meaningful as well. But yeah, maybe someone other has something to say about how do you kind of put ideas into sonic pieces.
Well, just some random thoughts maybe which would be useful. Sorry, I'm moving around the house, so I'm with picture now. You might get dizzy. And we're all stressed enough in these times, you know. Well, anyway, I'm joking. So first of all, the silence, I think that there is no real silence until we are alive. It's very unnatural thing. What we call silence is usually a change of a medium level of some kind of a sound pressure, let's say. I think it's very it's very symbolic, so to say, you know. Another thing what I was thinking about was the fact that, of course, I think that the artists and musicians and fine artists and dancers, I don't know, whoever, all are trying to have an impact, and they are actually having a huge impact, because I think only culture is what really separates the countries. You know, why, I don't know, Latvia is Latvia, or, you know, Finland is Finland. And there is the saying that culture is a soft power. But the soft power in the universe, as the soft power from physics, is one of the strongest powers, actually. So, you know, sometimes with sound art also, like with sonic intrusions, you can kind of say things to subconsciousness as well, and you can influence people in different ways by making that intrusion more, let's say, gentle. But that doesn't mean that it's not powerful. Sometimes these kind of things are even more powerful, because then people are not being threatened by some kind of big intrusion or approach. I think that's why, like, sound art in public space, for example, is very interesting approach also to do some kind of stuff. Yeah, subliminal, exactly. And then another thing I want to mention is also that actually, if you know some of the most recent neurological research, there is a very clear connection between actually sounds and the brain, in a way, that the sound, the sonic and musical activities, even when we are listening, let's say, there are some parts of our brain lighting up, which are related to movement, for example, although we are not moving, are related to imagining, to the language centers, actually listening, and especially performing some kind of sonic related activities, makes our brain like blink up the most, even more than if we do something connected to visual activities. And it's very much also related to movement, by the way. I mean, even the sense of rhythm or arranging sounds and things within the, let's say, time and also movements. I mean, it's very, everything is very much related. And also another thing is, I think, which is already have been said, but I think it's very important to mention it explicitly that yes, indeed, we are getting a lot of information through sound, but it's somehow subliminal. It's very much related to the sense of space. Also, Krista was talking before. We can actually, if we close our eyes, just from how our voice sounds within the room, if we would get teleported from one room to another room, we would kind of understand where we might be, especially if we have been before in this room. And it's because that we are also hearing the reflections of sound all the time. We're just not using it, maybe as, I don't know, bats are using it to actually see through the sound. So, I mean, just let's say some associations which came up for me in this discussion.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the part where you said that that we perceive sound in a way a bit like movement, because yeah, it's just like from the movement centers are the balance centers in the inner ear, and so actually we really perceive this kind of rhythmic music as movement, and that's the reason why really like already like small children they start dancing when hear rhythms.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it's also, there is also a cultural reason why also music and dance is so much related. It's all related to some kind of ritual, you know, like to a right, maybe at one point there was no different art spheres, everything was in one, you know, like you paint your face, there is a totem and there is a something which you can call music or sound art or whatever, you know, people shouting or singing and beating some drums or just doing some noises, and you are dancing and moving to all this, and it was just one art form which later divided into many different ones, and I kind of keep on reconnecting them and reinventing these borders between disciplines, but in the end all is the same. You know, we have the same brain, just like different kinds of activities related to the same brain.
you mentioned rituals. Do you like have any rituals for creating as well? You, Laura, you are a creator, not a sound creator, but still a creator. Do you have like something that you would call a ritual in your practice?
I would love to have more rituals in my life, but unfortunately I don't, or at least they might be so like intuitive that I don't even realize them, or I don't even notice them. What about the others? It would be really interesting to hear. How about, for instance, Ieva? Because I would love to hear what kind of process it is to concentrate in that way, and because your performance was like, it was such witchcraft for me. It was amazing. Yeah, I would love to hear.
Thank you. I was thinking about how do I concentrate, and I really listened. In general, I listen a lot to music, and often I get mad at myself when it becomes a background because I love listening so much. But for example, for working on this performance, I had a song that was kind of inspiration for it, and I really tried to kind of achieve a similar feeling to it. I don't think I did, but definitely one of my creative rituals is listening. But when actually performing, for me, it's thinking about being present is the most important part, about feeling the body and listening to the body in general. And I wish I would do it more in my daily life, to be honest, because in the rhythm of doing things and working, you often you don't stop and just listen. It's just a random thing connected to the previous talks. I thought about that recently. I went to for a walk in a park, and I always listen to music. And then for a second, I was like, I'm in a park, and I took off the headphones and I listened to the birds and the people around and all of these sounds, and I really got confused. Why have I been listening to this? Some kind of a stereo bump when all the soundscape is around me. But yeah, it's about personal practice, and I guess also about discipline. I think for me, listening is about discipline a lot, because you're used to being bombarded by so much of everything, that you're unconsciously listening. But to consciously listen, it's a practice and a discipline. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It requires quite a lot of discipline to, I think, to like really tune into that kind of stage of listening and concentrating. And I'm thinking whether it would be actually like even possible or even something to try to achieve, to be in that stage like all the time, because like Maija, you said that we still want to live in this kind of modern society and do be working and enjoy our lives. So maybe it's something that should be more tied to certain practices, like when you're performing. It's of course you have to concentrate. You cannot do that without concentrating and trying to really like be there. But maybe it also could be present in practices like for instance foraging food in the forest, or growing vegetables, or doing things in the garden. Yeah, because we are primates. We want to do stuff with our hands, and we want to also do, and not just like sit and meditate all the time, I think.
I use the word mindfulness, and that word is I don't like it, because how it's been used on the internet. But I really like the word mindfulness, because when you make a decision to do something consciously, it's as good as meditating. So like when you garden, just make sure that you're actually gardening, that you're thinking about the soil, the smell of the plants, and not think about all the emails that you haven't responded to. And the same can be said for absolutely anything. Like make a decision to be lazy, and have an evening of watching movies or listening to music, and just don't feel guilty about it. Just it's I think for me it's really the idea of stop feeling guilty. Like if you want to do something, then do something, and if you feel guilty about it, then just do it. Like if you have an unanswered difficult email, then just answer the email and then go consciously garden. And this situation that we are kind of used to, like I have a difficult email to write, so I will just sit on it for 2-3 days, so sometimes even a week, and just feel gradually more and more guilty about it. And I think that's what mindfulness means to me. Just stop doing that. Like if you have something on your mind, just do it. And when you have a free evening that you can afford to have, then have a consciously free evening. And turn off your phone, turn off your email, or at least just put it under a pillow somewhere, so you don't see the blinking of the notification.
That's a wonderful advice.
I guess as well, very important is not only to be very conscious, but as well to let go of things. Because I believe like when you're creative, creating something, there's always this some point maybe where you are like a bit stressed out, and you are like because there are like this, you have all the possibilities in the world, and you're thinking like, and I'm doing this, but you just have to in a way let go, and letting go kind of for me helps to actually do some work.
Yeah. What do you think? Should we just let it go now and have a 5-minute break before am I being right that there's something happening at 7? Anna?
At 7, I guess we have a technical meeting, Krista.
Yes, well, maybe I can use the time still on live stream to say that tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. we are going to have a collaborative sound art improvisation session, and it will be as well hosted on Zoom and live on live stream on Facebook and YouTube. And actually the theme that I proposed yesterday to participants is connected with it's connected with this Pauline Oliveros text scores, which are like quite a big inspiration for me. And well, she has a text score which the name of it is Give Sound, Receive Sound, and we will take our like kind of way on it, and our text score will sound as this, and it will be just like a starting point for this collaborative improvisation. So it states, listen, give a sound floating through the stream. Listen, receive a sound floating your way. And so this is kind of a cycle we can maybe use for tomorrow evening for the improvisation as a starting point. So welcome to join tomorrow evening as well.
Yes, and welcome to enjoy our Pixel Lake Festival program. We are getting our schedule soon done, and we'll announce it maybe next week.
It is coming up quite soon. It's from 6th to 13th of June, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So a week full of events online. Thank you all for joining. I am not, I guess, a person who burns slow. I have slept 1 hour tonight, and because I kind of tried to press, I guess, 5 lives into one recently, but you really made me kind of more energetic, and I really had a great time listening to all the presentations and thoughts. And yeah, we'll be happy to see you tomorrow also onto the joint jam session and listen to the outcomes of the program. So thanks very much for joining, and also of course thanks to Nordic Culture Point for supporting this event. So goodbyes, have a nice evening.
Bye bye.
Everybody. Thanks. See you all later.
Thanks. Bye.